In this session, we want to discuss direct access. Direct access is a remote access technology that allows a client computer to connect to the private corporate network from any location, as long as that computer is connected to the internet. When a direct access connection is active, remote users can connect to resources on the corporate network as if they were on the local premises. Direct access connection is always on, even before the user logs on to his or her computer. This technology is based on IP version 6. Direct access connection also supports bidirectional access. And with direct access, the user's remote computer has access to the corporate internet. But in addition to that, the intranet can see the user's computer, so that the administrator is able to manage that user's computer. The administrator is able to configure group policy and manage the computer from the internal network. Direct access also uses IP security to encrypt and to authenticate communication across the internet. When you configure direct access, you can also require a smart card for user authentication. In this scenario, we see how a direct access client uses the IP version 6 protocol to connect to the direct access server in the corporate network. And then communication goes from the direct access server to the internal resource. And for this leg, you can use either IP6 or IP4. But if you are connecting from your client computer to the direct access server, you will need to use IP6 or IP6 transitional technologies. We're going to discuss some of those technologies. In the first leg of communication, we have the client connecting to the direct access server. And we had said that we need that IP version 6 protocol in order to connect to the direct access server. If we do not have a dedicated IP version 6 protocol, then we need to use what we call transition technologies in order to communicate with the direct access server. And we know that IP version 6 is not widely implemented yet on public networks. So we're going to look at 3 IP version 6 transition technologies that are used to assist in establishing the IP version 6 connection to the direct access server. Our first transition technology is called 6 to 4. And this technology is used for direct access clients that have a public IP4 address. 6 to 4 can be used to connect to the direct access server via IP version 6 across the public IP4 internet. And 6 to 4 achieves this by actually tunneling that IP version 6 data within the IP4 header in a technique that we call IP version 6 over IP version 4. If you're going to be using 64, this transition technology requires that the router or firewall be configured so that outbound traffic for protocol 41 is allowed. Note that 64 does not work if the client is behind a network address translation device. Next, we have Torito. And Torito is used for direct access clients that are behind a network address translation device and configured with a private IP4 address. You can use Torito to connect to the direct access server via IP version 6 across the public IP4 internet. And just like the 64 works, Torito will channel that IP version 6 traffic within the IP version 4 packet. And the routers and firewall that need to be configured to allow outbound traffic would be the user datagram protocol 3544. We also have the third transition technology here, IP HTTPS, and this one is used if a direct client cannot effectively establish IP version 6 connectivity to the direct access server using either the 64 or Torito transition technologies. When we use the IP HTTPS transitional protocol, the direct access client will channel or encapsulate the IP version 6 traffic within HTTPS traffic. And there's no problem here because all routers allow outbound HTTPS traffic. So this option is almost always possible. When you compare that with the 64 and the Torito, where you have to configure your router and your firewall, for the IP, for the Torito, we had to use port 3544, and for the 64, we had to configure the protocol 41. But if you're using IP HTTPS, you wouldn't have to configure those because routers will allow HTTPS traffic by default. For the second leg of communication, where the direct access server will now access the resource on your internal server, you can use either IP version 6 or IP version 4 technology between the direct access server and your internal resource server. In our next session, we want to take a look at configuring the direct access server. This is the end of this session, and I want to thank you for listening.